There's a constant conversation happening inside your head. It's the narrator of your life, the critic, the worrier, the dreamer. It never stops. Most of us just let it run, like a radio playing in the background without ever questioning who chose the station. We get so used to the noise, the static, the endless chatter that we forget we have a choice. We forget that these thoughts aren't harmless. They aren't just passing clouds. They are the pigment, the dye, the very ink that colors our reality. Every anxious thought adds a drop of gray. Every flash of anger, a splash of red. Every lingering regret, a deep, somber blue. The Stoic Emperor Marcus Aurelius knew this with profound clarity. He wrote to himself, in the quiet hours before dawn, a truth that echoes through the centuries. The soul becomes dyed with the color of its thoughts. This isn't poetry, it's a diagnosis. It's a quiet warning that your inner world isn't separate from your outer experience. It creates it. What you allow to occupy your mind becomes the fabric of your life. The chaos you feel isn't just happening to you. It's being generated by you, thought by unchecked thought. The great thinkers, from Plato to Seneca, from Aristotle to the master of the human psyche, Carl Jung, all circled this fundamental truth. You are not the victim of your mind, you are its master. But mastery doesn't come from fighting your thoughts. It comes from understanding them. It comes from learning to be the artist of your own inner world, consciously choosing the colors you wish to live in. So if you've ever felt like a passenger in your own head, carried away by currents of anxiety, anger, or apathy, then this is for you. We're not just going to talk about changing your thoughts, we're going to talk about changing the very color of your soul. If this kind of exploration, this journey inward, speaks to something real in you, if it challenges you or brings you a sense of peace, there's one simple, free favor I'll ask. Just tap that subscribe button. That's how we continue to build this space together, a space for truth, for depth, and for the quiet work of self-mastery. Let's begin. Let's start with the most common color, the one so many of us are drenched in without even realizing it. The flat, colorless gray of anxiety and overthinking. It's the color of the mental fog you wake up with. It's the endless loop of replaying a conversation from yesterday, dissecting every word, every pause, searching for a mistake you might have made. It's the exhausting work of rehearsing a future that hasn't happened, creating elaborate disasters in your mind, and then suffering through each one as if it were real. This isn't just thinking, it's a state of being. It's a low-grade, chronic state of emergency. Your body is clenched, your breath is shallow, and your mind is a hamster on a wheel, running furiously but going nowhere. And the worst part is we've normalized it. We call it being prepared, being conscientious, being a detail-oriented person. But the truth is, it's a prison painted in shades of gray. The Roman Stoic Seneca, a man who navigated the treacherous politics of Nero's court, saw this mental state with piercing accuracy. He said, "We suffer more often in imagination than in reality." That is the essence of anxiety. The event itself is rarely as painful as the endless anticipation and rumination that surround it. We are artists of our own misery, painting catastrophic futures with a brush of fear, and then we wonder why our soul is so gray. Carl Jung called this the tyranny of the unconscious. He famously wrote, "Until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life and you will call it fate." For many, the unconscious habit of worry has become their fate. They believe they are simply a worrier, as if it were a permanent trait like their eye color. But it's not. It's a pattern, a well-worn mental groove that has been carved over years of repetition. It's a habit of thought, and habits can be unlearned. The shift doesn't begin by fighting the gray thoughts. You cannot wrestle anxiety into submission. The more you tell yourself, "Don't worry," the more your mind clenches around the very thing you're trying to escape. The solution, as the Stoics taught, is not to fight but to observe. It's to create a sliver of space between you, the observer, and the thought, When the anxious thought appears, instead of becoming it, you simply notice it. Ah, there is the thought about the presentation next week. You see it, you acknowledge it, but you don't have to board the train. You can let it pass. This is the beginning of what the philosophers called self-possession. You stop being a slave to every mental impulse. Aristotle spoke of finding the mean, the balanced middle path between extremes. The extreme of anxiety is being completely consumed by every fearful thought. The other extreme might be a reckless disregard for the future. The mean, the path of wisdom, is to be aware of possibilities without being imprisoned by them. It's to plan, but not to panic. This practice of observation, of creating space, is how you begin to clean the canvas. You stop adding more gray paint. You introduce moments of stillness. In those moments, you are not doing nothing. You are doing the most important work there is. You are reclaiming your mind. You are remembering that you are the one holding the brush. The gray is just a color, one of many. You can choose to paint with something else. And that realization, that first taste of inner freedom, is the first step to a life of vibrant, intentional color. Then there is the fiery, searing color of red, the color of anger and resentment. This is the color of the wound you keep picking at, the injustice you replay in your mind on a loop. It's the hot, burning feeling that floods your chest when you think of the person who betrayed you, the opportunity that was stolen, the respect you were denied. Red is a powerful, consuming color. It can feel righteous, even energizing for a moment. But living in red, letting it dye your soul, is like drinking poison and waiting for the other person to die. Resentment is a prison you build for yourself, brick by painful memory. It keeps the past alive and allows it to poison your present. You walk through your day, but you're not really there. You're in a mental courtroom, endlessly prosecuting a case that has long been adjourned. You are the judge, the jury, and the tormented plaintiff all at once, and it is exhausting. The Greek Stoic Epictetus, a man who was born a slave and endured immense hardship, understood this better than anyone. He taught a simple, revolutionary idea. It is not what happens to you, but how you react to it that matters. People will be unfair. Life will be unjust. Betrayal will happen. These things are external. They are outside your control. But the story you tell yourself about them, the anger you choose to carry, the resentment you nurture, that is internal. That is your choice. The event might have hurt you once, but the resentment hurts you every single day. Aristotle, in his great work on ethics, pointed out the complexity of this emotion. He said, anybody can become angry, that is easy, but to be angry with the right person and to the right degree and at the right time and for the right purpose and in the right way, that is not within everybody's power and is not easy. Most of our lingering anger fails this test. It's undirected, festering long after the moment has passed. It's aimed at people who are no longer in our lives or at situations we can no longer change. It's the wrong dose, at the wrong time, for the wrong purpose. It doesn't solve anything. It only burns. So how do you wash the red from your soul? You do it through the radical act of forgiveness. But let's be clear about what forgiveness is. It is not saying, what you did was okay. It is not reconciliation. You don't have to let that person back into your life. Forgiveness is not for them. It is a gift you give to yourself. It is the decision to stop carrying the hot coal. It's the conscious choice to put down the weight of the past so that you can finally have two hands free to build your future. Carl Jung believed that integrating our shadow self was the key to wholeness. Anger and the capacity for rage are part of that shadow. Acknowledging your anger is the first step. You say, yes, this hurt. Yes, I am angry. You give the emotion a name. But then you must make a choice. Will you let this emotion define you, or will you use it as information? The information is this: a boundary was crossed, a value was violated. The wise response is not to live in the red of resentment, but to use that information to build better boundaries, to make wiser choices about who gets access to your life and your energy. When you release resentment, you're not letting them off the hook. You are taking yourself off their hook. You are declaring that your peace of mind is more important than their wrongdoing. You are choosing to paint with a different color. It's a quiet, internal rebellion. You take the energy you were pouring into the past and you reinvest it into your present. You stop being the guardian of a painful memory and become the architect of a peaceful future. That is the moment the red begins to fade, replaced by the clear, calm color of self-reclamation. Now let's talk about a subtle, creeping color that stains the modern soul perhaps more than any other: the murky, dissatisfying brown of comparison and envy. It's the color of the endless scroll, the feeling of inadequacy that washes over you as you swipe through the curated highlight reels of other people's lives. It's the voice that whispers, "Look at them. Why isn't my life like that? Why don't I have that? Why am I so far behind?" This color doesn't burn like red or fog like gray. It seeps. It's a slow, toxic leak that erodes your sense of worth and joy. It makes your own accomplishments feel small, your blessings invisible, and your path hopelessly flawed. In the age of social media, we are all living in a gallery where every other painting seems brighter, more vibrant, more celebrated than our own. And we stand before our own canvas, feeling poor and untalented. The Stoics, long before the invention of the internet, warned against this very trap. Their teachings constantly pull us back to one central command: focus on what is within your control. Your path, your character, your choices, your response to the world, this is your domain. The lives of others, their successes, their possessions, their perceived happiness, this is external and therefore irrelevant to your own flourishing. Marcus Aurelius gave himself a powerful directive: waste no more time arguing what a good man should be one. We can adapt this for our age. Waste no more time observing another's life. Live one. Plato's allegory of the cave is a perfect metaphor for this modern condition. He described prisoners chained in a cave, watching shadows dance on a wall, mistaking these projections for reality. Social media profiles are our shadows on the wall. They are not reality. They are carefully edited, filtered, and performed versions of a life. They are two-dimensional projections that omit the struggle, the doubt, the fear, and the messy, unglamorous work that happens behind the scenes. When we compare our real, three-dimensional, complex lives to their flat, perfect shadows, we are guaranteed to lose. We are choosing to live in the cave, and it will always be a dim, dissatisfying place. The shift from the murky brown of envy requires a radical change in focus. It's about intentionally turning your gaze away from their canvas and back to your own. This isn't about pretending others don't exist. It's about making your own life more compelling than their performance. This is done through the practice of what we might call tending your own garden. What are you planting? What are you watering? What weeds do you need to pull? Socrates famously said, "To find yourself, think for yourself." Comparison is the opposite of this. It's allowing others to think for you, to define your standards of success and happiness. When you stop looking outward for validation, you have to start generating it from within. This is where gratitude becomes a revolutionary act. You cannot simultaneously feel envy and gratitude. The two emotions cannot occupy the same space. The moment you genuinely appreciate what you have, your health, a moment of peace, a good conversation, the progress you've made, the color of envy begins to fade. You start to see that you are not behind. You are simply on your own path, with its own unique timeline, lessons, and beauty. Carl Jung spoke of individuation, the process of becoming your authentic, whole self. This journey is, by definition, unique. You cannot individuate while trying to replicate someone else's life. Your soul has its own color palette. Trying to paint with someone else's colors will only ever create a muddy, inauthentic mess. So the next time you feel the pull of the scroll, the sting of comparison, pause, put the phone down, look around at your actual life. Find one thing, just one thing to be grateful for. Take one small action that aligns with your own values, not theirs. Write one line in a journal about what you learned today. This is how you change the color. You don't fight the brown. You crowd it out with the vibrant, authentic colors of your own lived experience. You trade the shadows on the wall for the reality of your own 2 feet on the ground. There is a heavy, quiet color that can feel like drowning. It is the deep, melancholic blue of sadness and regret. It's the color of living in the past, haunted by the ghost of what if. What if I had said yes? What if I had left sooner? What if I had been braver, smarter, different? Unlike the hot fire of anger, blue is a cold, heavy blanket. It immobilizes. It whispers that your best days are behind you, that a mistake you made is a life sentence, and that the past is more real than the present. Living in this color, your soul becomes waterlogged. Every present moment is filtered through a past sorrow. You can be at a celebration, but the blue tint of a past loss colors the joy. You can meet someone new, but the regret from a past relationship makes you hesitant and closed. It's a state of being anchored to a ghost ship, unable to sail into the new waters of the present. Many of us are taught to fear this color. We see sadness as a weakness, a problem to be fixed. We're told to cheer up, get over it, or focus on the positive, as if sadness were a simple choice we could just switch off. But this is a profound misunderstanding of the human spirit. Carl Jung taught that wholeness comes from integrating all parts of ourselves, especially the parts we fear, the shadow. Sadness is not a flaw, it is a vital part of the human experience. It is the soul's response to loss, to pain, to the inevitable goodbyes of life. To deny it is to deny a part of your own humanity. The first step in transforming the color blue is not to fight it, but to honor it. You must give your sorrow a voice. You allow yourself to feel it without judgment. This is not wallowing, this is witnessing. You are bearing witness to your own pain, acknowledging its right to exist. True healing can only begin when we stop resisting what is. As Jung said, what you resist persists. By pushing sadness away, you only give it more power. It will continue to knock on the door of your soul until you have the courage to let it in. Socrates urged us to live an examined life. This applies deeply to regret. The purpose of examining a past mistake is not to dwell in it, but to learn from it. You sit with the regret and you ask it, "What are you here to teach me?" Perhaps the lesson is about trusting your intuition. Perhaps it's about speaking your truth sooner. Perhaps it's about the importance of forgiveness. You must have the courage to extract the lesson. Once you have the lesson, the emotional charge of the regret begins to lose its power. You can thank the past for the wisdom it gave you, and then, gently, you can let it go. This is the alchemy of the soul, turning the lead of regret into the gold of wisdom. You realize the past doesn't have to be a prison, it can be a university. Every mistake, every sorrow was a harsh but effective teacher. You are who you are today not in spite of your past, but because of it. You are wiser, more compassionate, more resilient because of the things that tinged your soul with blue. This doesn't mean the sadness vanishes forever. There may always be a hint of blue in your palette, a memory of a loss that softened you, but it no longer has to be the dominant color. It becomes a subtle shade that adds depth and character to your canvas. You learn to carry the lessons without being crushed by the weight. You learn to dip your brush in other colors again, the gold of gratitude, the green of new growth. You let the blue exist as part of your story, but you refuse to let it be the end of the story. You, the artist, pick up the brush and decide, with quiet strength, to paint a new chapter. After too long in the fire of red, the fog of gray, or the weight of blue, the soul can arrive at a place that feels even more dangerous, the stark, sterile white of apathy and numbness. This is the color of I don't care anymore. It's not peace, it's emptiness. It's the exhaustion that comes after a long, fruitless war, where you finally put down your weapons not because you've won, but because you're too tired to fight. In this state, nothing touches you. Good news doesn't lift you. Bad news doesn't hurt you. Passion feels like a distant memory. Your life becomes a series of motions, a checklist of tasks performed by a body whose spirit has gone quiet. This is perhaps the most deceptive color because on the surface it can look like strength. It can look like being unbothered, a state many people strive for. But this isn't stoic peace. This is emotional desertion. You haven't mastered your feelings. You've just evacuated the building. Jung believed that people will do anything, no matter how absurd, to avoid facing their own souls. Apathy is one of the most sophisticated forms of this avoidance. It's a psychological defense mechanism against chronic pain. The soul, in an act of self-preservation, simply shuts down the circuit breakers to prevent a complete overload. It's quieter than anxiety and less painful than fresh grief, but it is a state of profound disconnection from yourself, from others, and from life itself. The Stoics taught that we are social creatures by nature, meant to engage with the world, to play our part in the great cosmic drama. Apathy is a rejection of this fundamental nature. It is a retreat from the field of life. Seneca warned that a life lived without engaging in our duties and connections is a life barely lived at all. The goal is not to feel nothing. The goal is to feel everything and remain steadfast. Numbness is not steadfastness. It is a void. So how do you bring color back to a bleached-out canvas? You cannot think your way out of apathy. It's a state of low energy, and you cannot generate new energy from an empty tank. The path back begins with the body. It begins with one small, intentional physical act. The philosopher Aristotle linked life and movement inextricably. When we are stagnant, our spirit stagnates too. You don't need a grand plan. You just need to create a tiny spark. Go for a walk and focus only on the feeling of your feet on the pavement. Put on a piece of music that once made you feel something, anything, and just listen. Cook a simple meal and pay attention to the smells and textures. The goal is not to be happy. The goal is simply to feel, to reconnect the wires that have been severed. These small acts are like dipping a single brush into a pot of color. At first, it might just be a faint streak on the white canvas, but then you do it again the next day. Another streak. Slowly, painstakingly, you reintroduce color to your soul. You are reminding your nervous system that it is safe to feel again. You are choosing, in the smallest way, to re-engage with the world. Socrates taught that the secret of change is to focus all your energy not on fighting the old, but on building the new. You don't fight the numbness. You build feeling. You don't try to force passion. You cultivate a single, small moment of presence. And in time, the white landscape of apathy begins to recede. It is replaced by the gentle colors of returning life. It may be a quiet, pale green at first, but it is color nonetheless. And it is a testament to your courage. The courage not to win a war, but simply to choose to feel again. Now that we've looked at the colors we get lost in, the question becomes, how do we begin painting with intention? How do we clean the canvas? The answer is both simple and profound. The work is always done in the present moment. The now is the only place you have power. It is the only point where the brush meets the canvas. The past is a gallery of finished paintings. You can learn from them, but you cannot change them. The future is an empty canvas, and your anxiety about it is just you worrying about colors you haven't even mixed yet. To be able to choose a new color, you must first be present. But presence is a skill, one that has been eroded by a world that celebrates distraction. We are constantly pulled out of the now into our phones, into our worries, into the endless noise. Reclaiming the present moment is the first act of an intentional artist. This requires what the Stoics considered the highest virtue: discipline. Not a harsh, punishing discipline, but the gentle, consistent discipline of returning. When your mind wanders into the gray fog of anxiety, you gently return to your breath. When your heart burns with the red of resentment, you gently return to the reality of the room you are in. When you are drowning in the murky brown of comparison, you gently return to the feeling of your own two hands, the only ones that can build your life. This act of returning, over and over, is the practice. It is the water that cleans the brush, preparing it for a new color. Seneca wrote with great urgency about the brevity of life. He argued that our life is not short, but we make it so by wasting our time on trivialities. And what is more trivial than spending the precious, unrepeatable moments of our lives lost in thought loops of anger, worry, and envy? He said, "It is not that we have a short time to live, but that we waste a lot of it." Every moment you spend in these negative colors is a moment of your one, precious life that you are giving away. So the shift begins with a commitment to presence. You start to notice, without judgment, when you are lost. You become the observer of your own mind. This is the great awakening Jung spoke of. You realize, I am not my thoughts, I am the one who hears my thoughts. This separation creates freedom. You are no longer guided by every passing emotion. You are the canvas, vast and spacious, and the thoughts are just colors passing over your surface. This is not an easy practice. It is the work of a lifetime, but it begins now. It begins with the next breath. It begins with the decision to be here in this moment fully. To feel the chair beneath you, to hear the sounds in the room, to look at the world without the filter of your story. This is how you clean the canvas. You stop painting unconsciously from a place of fear and reaction, and you create a space of clear, conscious presence. From this space, and only from this space, can you begin to choose your colors. Let us now choose our first intentional color, the warm, radiant, and transformative color of gold. This is the color of gratitude and presence. This is not the color of toxic positivity or pretending that everything is perfect. Gold is not a flimsy, superficial color. It is the color of true wealth, the kind that cannot be bought or sold. It is the color of a soul that has learned to see the treasure in the ordinary. Most of us move through our days in a state of perpetual wanting. We are focused on what's next, what's missing, what needs to be fixed. Our gaze is constantly fixed on the horizon, and so we trip over the gold nuggets that are scattered at our feet. We take for granted the very things that, if they were suddenly taken from us, we would beg to have back. Our health, the love of our family, a moment of peace, the ability to see a sunrise. The Stoic philosopher Epictetus offered a radical prescription for happiness. He said, "He is a wise man who does not grieve for the things which he has not, but rejoices for those which he has." This is the essence of painting with gold. It is a conscious shift in perspective from a mindset of lack to a mindset of abundance. Not material abundance, but the abundance of the present moment. You begin to intentionally look for the good. You hunt for it. You make it your practice. One of the most powerful Stoic practices to cultivate this color is memento mori, the remembrance of death. This sounds morbid, but it is, in fact, the opposite. Contemplating the impermanence of life does not make you sad. It makes you appreciate the incredible gift of being alive right now. It infuses every mundane moment with a golden light. When you remember that this day is finite, this conversation is precious, this breath is a gift, you stop taking things for granted. The simple act of drinking a cup of coffee becomes a miracle. A conversation with a loved one becomes an unrepeatable work of art. Painting with gold is an active practice. It is not enough to passively know that you should be grateful. You must feel it. At the end of the day, instead of ruminating on what went wrong, you ask yourself, what went right? What was one small, beautiful moment that I can hold in my heart? Maybe it was the kindness of a stranger. Maybe it was the taste of your favorite food. Maybe it was just the feeling of the sun on your skin. Socrates believed wisdom begins in wonder. Gratitude is the practice of returning to wonder. It is about seeing the world with new eyes every day. It's about recognizing that your life, right now, with all its imperfections, is filled with small, golden miracles. When you start to intentionally notice them, to collect them, to paint them into the canvas of your soul, the entire composition of your life begins to change. The grays, reds, and blues don't disappear entirely, but they are now part of a much larger, more beautiful picture, illuminated by the steady, warm glow of gold. It is a color that, once you start painting with it, you will never want to live without. Finally, let us speak of the most hopeful and dynamic color of all, the vibrant, living green of growth and possibility. This is the color of a soul that has decided not to be a finished product, but a work in progress. It is the shift from a fixed mindset that says, "This is just how I am," to a growth mindset that asks, "Who am I becoming?" Many of us get trapped in the identity of our past struggles. We let the old colors define us. We say, "I am an anxious person," or "I have a bad temper." We speak about our flaws as if they are permanent features of our landscape, but this is a profound illusion. You are not your habits. You are not your past mistakes. You are the one who is choosing in this moment what to do next. The color green represents this choice. It is the belief in your own capacity to change, to learn, and to evolve. It is the energy of spring, of new shoots pushing through hard ground. To paint with this color is to see every challenge not as a threat, but as a curriculum. It's to look at a setback and ask the most powerful question you can ask. What can I learn from this? Aristotle's entire philosophy of ethics was built on this idea. He said, "We are what we repeatedly do. Excellence, then, is not an act, but a habit." This means that courage, patience, wisdom, and resilience are not qualities you are born with. They are skills you develop through practice. Your soul is not a stone tablet with your character etched into it. It is a garden. You can cultivate new habits, new virtues, just as a gardener cultivates new plants. It takes time, effort, and patience, but it is always possible. The great teacher Socrates embodied the spirit of the color green. His wisdom did not come from having all the answers, but from knowing that he knew nothing. This beginner's mind is the essence of a growth mindset. It is a state of openness, curiosity, and humility. When you believe you have it all figured out, you close the door to learning. But when you admit that you are always a student of life, every person you meet, every book you read, every mistake you make becomes a potential teacher. To live in the color green is to embrace discomfort. It's to lean into your edges. It's to try the thing you're not sure you can do. It's to have the hard conversation. Growth is not a comfortable process. It requires stretching. It requires the courage to be imperfect, to be a beginner, to fail, and to get back up. But the alternative is stagnation, a soul that has stopped reaching for the light. Carl Jung's concept of individuation is the ultimate expression of the color green. It is the lifelong journey of becoming more and more yourself. It's a process of shedding the masks, the false personas, and the limiting beliefs that you have accumulated over the years. It is a journey of constant discovery. Painting with green means you are committed to this journey. You are no longer content to live within the confines of who you have been. You are actively, consciously engaged in the process of becoming who you were meant to be. You start to see your life not as a series of problems to be solved, but as a series of opportunities to grow. The difficult colleague is an opportunity to practice patience. The unexpected bill is an opportunity to practice resilience. The creative block is an opportunity to practice new ways of thinking. When you are painted with the color green, the world is no longer a battlefield. It is a training ground. And every day offers a new lesson, a new chance to add a stroke of green to the masterpiece of your soul. To summarize, the colors of your soul are not chosen for you. They are chosen by you, thought by thought, moment by moment. The Stoic wisdom of Marcus Aurelius is not a passive observation. It is an active invitation. It is a call to take up the brush of your own awareness and begin the deliberate, sacred work of painting a life of meaning, resilience, and peace. It is the recognition that the gray of anxiety, the red of resentment, the brown of envy, and the blue of regret are not your destiny. They are simply old habits of thought. This journey is not about erasing the darker colors. A masterpiece is not made of only bright hues. The darker shades provide contrast, depth, and character. Your past pains, your sorrows, your struggles, they have given you wisdom and compassion. The goal is not to have a canvas of pure, unblemished light, but to be the conscious artist who knows how to balance the light and the dark, who knows how to use every color in their palette to create something beautiful and true. You are the artist. Your awareness is the brush. Your thoughts are the paint. Today, you can choose to dip your brush in the gold of gratitude. You can choose to add a vibrant stroke of green possibility. You can choose to clean the canvas with the clear water of presence. This power has been yours all along. The world will continue to offer you reasons to paint with fear and anger, but you do not have to accept them. You can stand before the easel of your life, take a deep breath, and with a steady hand, choose to create a soul dyed in the colors of wisdom, courage, and love. You are the masterpiece, always in progress, and the work of art you are creating is your one precious life. Paint it well.